The mist clung to the jagged peaks of Phao Sea Mountain, curling like a dragon's breath over the sleepy town of Luang Prabang. Dawn painted the Mekong River in hues of amber, and the rhythmic chant of monks drifted from what Xing Thong, their saffron robes of vivid contrast against the ancient stone. Suk, once a revered monk of this very temple, stood at the river's edge, his bare feet sinking into the cool mud. He was no longer clad in the robes that had defined him for a decade. Instead, he wore a simple linen shirt and a fa sin, the traditional Laotian skirt, his dark eyes tracing the horizon where the river met the sky. At 32, Suk was a man unmoored. 10 years ago, he had entered the monastery seeking peace from a childhood scarred by poverty and loss. His parents, rice farmers in a remote village, had died during a monsoon flood when he was 12. The monks had taken him in, offering not just shelter, but a path to transcendence. He had excelled in meditation, his calm demeanor earning him respect among the Sangha. Yet, beneath his serene exterior, questions simmered. Was detachment truly the answer? Could a life of solitude fulfill the yearning he felt for connection? The decision to leave the monastery had not come lightly. It was a quiet rebellion, sparked by a chance encounter during an almsgiving ceremony 2 years prior. Among the townsfolk offering sticky rice to the monks was a woman with hair the color of ripe mangoes and eyes like the English sky she described in broken Lao. Her name was Clara, a photographer from London traveling Southeast Asia to capture its soul. She knelt before Suk, her hands trembling as she placed rice in his alms bowl, and their eyes met for a fleeting moment. That glance lingered in his dreams, a crack in the foundation of his monastic vows. Clara returned to Luang Prabang months later, her camera slung around her neck, chasing the perfect shot of the morning alms. Suk, still a monk, found himself drawn to her presence. They spoke in stolen moments her about the chaos of London, him about the stillness of the temple. She was curious, unafraid to ask why he chose a life of austerity. He found himself answering with a candor that surprised him, admitting the doubts that gnawed at his heart. When she left for Vientiane, she gave him a photograph, a candid shot of him mid-chant, his face serene yet tinged with longing. "You're more than this," she'd said, her words a seed planted in fertile soil. The seed sprouted over months of reflection. Suk's meditations grew restless, his dreams filled with laughter, touch, and a life beyond the temple walls. He sought counsel from his abbot, a wizened man who had seen many monks falter. "The path is not for all," the abbot said, his voice gentle. "If your heart calls you elsewhere, follow it with courage." So, one moonlit night, Suk shed his robes, leaving them folded neatly by the temple gate. He stepped into the world as a layman, his heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. Luang Prabang was both familiar and alien without the weight of his vows. Suk found work as a guide, leading tourists through the town's gilded temples and hidden waterfalls. His knowledge of Buddhist history and his quiet charm made him popular, but he lived modestly, saving every kip to rebuild his life. It was during a tour of Kwang Si Falls that he met Clara again. She was with 3 friends, Emma, Lily, and Rosal, English women in their late 20s, each with a spark of adventure in their eyes. They had come to Laos seeking more than postcard views. They craved stories, connection, and a break from the grind of city life. Clara recognized Suk instantly, her face lighting up as she called his name. He was no longer the monk she'd photographed, but a man with calloused hands and a shy smile. Over glasses of Lao Lao rice whiskey that evening, the group shared stories under a canopy of stars. Emma, a nurse, spoke of healing broken bodies. Lily, a writer, wove tales of her travels. Rose, a chef, described flavors that could make the heart sing. Suk listened, captivated by their vitality, their unapologetic embrace of life. The women extended their stay in Luang Prabang, drawn to the town's charm and, increasingly, to Suk. He became their guide, not just to the physical landscape, but to the soul of Laos. He took them to his childhood village, a cluster of stilted houses where rice paddies stretched like green mirrors. The villagers, wary at first, warmed to the women's kindness. Clara photographed children playing in the fields. Emma attended to a farmer's infected wound. Lily scribbled poems inspired by the elders' tales, and Rose learned to cook cow soy from Suk's aunt. Suk felt a pull toward each woman, not as a fleeting desire, but as a deep resonance. Clara's curiosity mirrored his own. Emma's compassion healed old wounds. Lily's words gave voice to his unspoken dreams. Rose's warmth felt like home. He was bewildered by these feelings, having been taught that love was singular, exclusive. Yet, in the village's communal spirit, where families shared burdens and joys, he began to question those norms. The women, too, were drawn to Suk's quiet strength and the way he bridged world ancient and modern, sacred and secular. They stayed in the village, renting a house by the river, and their bond with Suk deepened. Conversations turned to dreams of a life less ordinary. Clara spoke of a family rooted in love, not convention. Emma longed for a community where healing extended beyond medicine. Lily envisioned a home filled with stories, and Rose dreamed of a kitchen where cultures blended. Suk, emboldened by their openness, shared his own vision, a life of connection, free from the dogma that had once confined him. One evening, under a banyan tree, strung with lanterns, Suk proposed an audacious idea. "What if we build a life together, all of us?" he asked, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. The women fell silent, their faces a mix of shock and intrigue. Clara was the first to speak. "You mean a family? All 5 of us?" Suk nodded, explaining how his village valued chosen families, where love wasn't bound by numbers. He spoke of Buddhist principles of compassion and non-attachment, reinterpreted as freedom to love without possession. The idea was radical, yet resonated. The women, each disillusioned with societal expectations marriage, mortgages, monogamy, saw in Suk's proposal a chance to rewrite their story. They agreed to try, not as a whim, but as a deliberate act of trust. They moved to the village permanently, pooling their savings to buy land. The villagers, though initially skeptical, saw Suk's sincerity and the women's contributions. They built a sprawling house with a communal kitchen, a library for Lily's books, a darkroom for Clara's photos, and a clinic where Emma treated locals for free. Life was not without challenges. Language barriers led to misunderstandings. Cultural differences sparked debates. The women grappled with jealousy, learning to communicate openly to navigate their complex bond. Suk faced scrutiny from conservative elders, who whispered of his foreign harem. Yet, the family's generosity, sharing harvests, teaching English, hosting festivals, won hearts. The village began to see them not as outsiders, but as kin. Love blossomed in unexpected ways. Suk and each woman forged a unique bond, rooted in mutual respect. Clara and Suk spent nights developing photos, their fingers brushing in the dim red light. Emma and Suk meditated together, finding peace in shared silence. Lily read her poems to Suk, his feedback shaping her words. Rose taught him to cook, their laughter filling the kitchen. The women, too, grew close, supporting each other like sisters. 2 years into their life together, the family faced a new chapter, parenthood. Each woman, after heartfelt discussions, chose to start a family with Suk. The village midwife, a woman of few words but deep wisdom, guided them through pregnancies that unfolded in unison. By their 8th month, Clara, Emma, Lily, and Rose glowed with anticipation, their bellies round under colorful dresses. Suk, once a monk who had renounced worldly ties, now stood at the center of a family he'd never imagined. One afternoon, Clara gathered everyone for a photograph. They stood in the garden, surrounded by hibiscus and frangipani, the Mekong shimmering in the distance. Suk, in a woven fa sin, placed his hands on Clara's and Emma's shoulders, while Lily and Rose leaned close, their smiles radiant. The shutter clicked, capturing a moment of unity, a family forged by choice and courage. The photograph, shared on Clara's blog, went viral. News outlets from London to Vientiane clamored for their story. Former monk marries 4 English women, screamed headlines, some sensational, others curious. The family, wary of intrusion, declined interviews but allowed Clara to publish a book of photos and essays, co-authored with Lily. Titled Love's Uncharted Path, it chronicled their journey, blending Lao folklore with their modern tale. The book became a global sensation, sparking debates on love, family, and cultural fusion. In the village, life continued. The women gave birth to 4 healthy children, 2 boys, 2 girls within weeks of each other. The village celebrated with a festival, drums echoing through the night. Suk, now a father, felt a profound shift. His monastic training, once a shield against pain, became a lens to cherish impermanence. He taught his children mindfulness, while their mothers shared stories of England's rolling hills and Lao's ancient spirits. The family's influence rippled outward. Emma's clinic expanded, training local healers. Lily's writing workshops empowered youth to tell their stories. Rose's cooking classes blended Lao and Western cuisines, drawing tourists who left with full bellies and open minds. Clara's photographs hung in galleries worldwide, each frame a love letter to their unconventional life. Suk, reflecting on his journey, saw no contradiction between his past and present. The monastery had taught him to seek truth. Love had shown him its many forms. As he watched his children play by the river, their laughter mingling with the Mekong's song, he felt a peace deeper than any meditation. His story, once a whisper in Luang Prabang's temples, was now a beacon, inspiring others to embrace love's uncharted path. The golden light of dawn spilled over the Mekong, casting a warm glow on the stilted house where Suk and his family lived. The garden, now lush with jasmine and banana trees, buzzed with the chatter of children. The 4 infants Cam, Lila, Mai, and Oliver gurgled in their woven cribs, tended by their mothers, Clara, Emma, Lily, and Rose. Suk knelt nearby, repairing a bamboo fence, his hands steady but his mind adrift in the whirlwind of the past 2 years. The photograph that Clara had shared, now framed in their living room, had transformed their quiet life into a global story. What began as a private bond had become a symbol of love's defiance, and with it came both opportunity and scrutiny. The village, once a hidden gem along the Mekong, now saw a steady trickle of visitors. Some were curious travelers, drawn by Clara's book, Love's Uncharted Path, which had climbed bestseller lists in London and New York. Others were journalists, eager to dissect the family's unconventional union. Suk, ever the quiet observer, felt the weight of their gaze. He had once found solace in the anonymity of his monk's robes. Now, he navigated a world where his name was whispered in articles and forums. The villagers, too, grappled with the attention. While many embraced the family's contributions, others muttered about tradition being eroded by foreign influence. Clara, with her photographer's eye, saw beauty in the chaos. She spent mornings in her darkroom, developing images of the village's festivals and the children's first steps. Her latest project was a series on Lao women, capturing their resilience through portraits of weavers, farmers, and midwives. She invited Lily to write captions, blending poetry with the raw honesty of village life. Their collaboration deepened their bond, a reminder that their family was not just about Suk, but about the women's love for each other. Clara's work, displayed in galleries from Bangkok to Berlin, brought income that funded the family's projects, but also invited questions about their private life. Emma, ever practical, focused on the village clinic. Her days were filled with treating fevers, stitching wounds, and teaching hygiene to school children. She had trained 2 local women, Baumi and Saida, as nurses, and together they built a small dispensary, stocked with donated supplies. Emma's calm demeanor masked her worry about the future. The children were growing, and with them came questions of education and identity. Would they be Laotian, English, or something new? She confided in Suk during their evening meditations, their breaths sinking as they sat cross-legged under the banyan tree. "I want them to know both worlds," she said, her voice soft. but I fear they'll feel like they belong to neither. Lily, the dreamer, found solace in words. Her poetry workshops, held in a village school, had grown into a community ritual. Teenagers and elders alike gathered to share stories, their voices weaving a tapestry of Lao folklore and modern aspirations. Lily's latest project was a children's book inspired by Suk's tales of the Naga, the mythical serpent of the Mekong. She read drafts to the children, their wide eyes sparking her creativity. Yet, Lily felt the strain of the outside world. Online forums debated their family, some praising their courage, others calling it a spectacle. She poured her frustration into her journal, her pen a shield against judgment. Rose, the heart of the household, kept everyone grounded. Her kitchen was a sanctuary, with a sense of lemongrass and basil mingled with the laughter of her co-wives. She had opened a cooking school, teaching tourists to make lap and tamak hung while sharing stories of Lao culture. The income helped repair the village school and fund scholarships for local youth. Rose's warmth drew people in, but she, too, felt the pressure of scrutiny. A British tabloid had published a lurid article, calling their family a cult. Rose burned the clipping in the fire pit, but the words lingered, a reminder of the world's misunderstanding. Suk, caught between his past and present, sought balance. He taught the children mindfulness, guiding them to notice the rustle of leaves or the ripple of the river. He also worked with the village elders, mediating disputes and ensuring the family's projects respected tradition. But the whispers of disapproval grew louder. One elder, Fumi, a stern man with a face like carved teak, confronted Suk at a village meeting. "You bring wealth, but you also bring chaos," he said. "What will happen when your children ask why their family is not like others?" Suk, trained in the art of patience, listened without defense. Later, he spoke of unity, reminding Fumi that the village had always embraced those who contributed to its heart. The family's bond was tested by a new challenge: legal ambiguity. Laos, with its blend of Buddhist and socialist laws, had no framework for their union. While the village accepted them, the government began to question their status. A local official, intrigued by media coverage, visited to inquire about their marriage. Suk explained that their bond was not formalized but rooted in mutual commitment. The official, a young man named Vong, was sympathetic but warned that immigration laws could complicate the women's visas. Clara, ever resourceful, contacted a lawyer in Vientiane who suggested registering their land as a cooperative to secure their stay. The process was grueling, requiring trips to the capital and endless paperwork, but it strengthened their resolve. As the children approached their second birthday, the family planned a celebration that doubled as a village festival. Rose organized a feast, blending Lao sticky rice with English trifle, a nod to their dual heritage. Claire set up a photo booth, capturing families in traditional attire. Emma led a health fair, offering free checkups, while Lily read her children's book to a rapt audience. Suk, dressed in a silk fa sin, carried Cam on his shoulders, the boys' laughter echoing through the crowd. The festival was a success, drawing hundreds from nearby villages. For a moment, the whispers of judgment faded, replaced by music and shared joy. But the outside world intruded again. A documentary crew from London arrived, offering to tell their story. Clara was wary, fearing sensationalism, but Lily saw an opportunity to control the narrative. After heated discussions, they agreed to let the crew film on the condition that the focus be on their community work, not their personal lives. The filming process was invasive, with cameras trailing them through the market and clinic. Suk, uncomfortable with the attention, retreated to the river, where he meditated alone. Clara found him there, her camera slung over her shoulder. "We're doing this for the kids," she said, squeezing his hand, "so they know their story is one of love, not shame." The documentary, titled Family of the Mekong, aired a year later to critical acclaim. It portrayed the family's life with nuance, highlighting their contributions to the village and their unconventional love. Viewers worldwide sent letters, some critical but many inspired. A teacher in Manchester wrote of using their story in her classroom to discuss diversity. A Lao student in Australia thanked them for showing that tradition could evolve. The film's success brought more visitors, and the family channeled the attention into a foundation, Mekong Harmony, to fund education and healthcare across rural Laos. The children, now toddlers, brought new challenges and joys. Cam was curious, always tugging at Suk's shirt to ask about the stars. Lila, Emma's daughter, was quiet, her eyes following every movement in the clinic. Lily's girl, loved stories, clapping whenever her mother read. Oliver, Rose's son, was a whirlwind, chasing chickens and splashing in the river. The women shared parenting duties, each bringing their strengths. Clara taught them to see beauty, Emma to care for others, Lily to dream, and Rose to find joy in small moments. Suk, drawing on his monastic past, taught them patience, though he laughed at his own struggles to keep up with their energy. One evening, as the family sat around a fire, a letter arrived from Clara's mother in England. She had been skeptical of their life, but wrote of her pride after seeing the documentary. She planned to visit, eager to meet her grandchildren. The letter sparked a conversation about legacy. "What will we leave them?" Lily asked, her hand resting on Mai's head. Suk looked at his family, their faces lit by the fire's glow. "We'll leave them the courage to choose their own path," he said, "and the knowledge that love can build a home anywhere." The village, too, had changed. The clinic now served 3 districts, with Baomi and Saida leading outreach programs. Lily's workshops had produced a young poet whose work was published in Vientiane. Rose's cooking school attracted chefs from Thailand and Vietnam, fostering cultural exchange. Clara's photographs adorned the village hall, a gallery of resilience and joy. The elders, even Fumi, began to see the family as a bridge between worlds, preserving Lao traditions while embracing new ideas. As the sun set over the Mekong, Suk stood with his family, watching the children play. The river, eternal and ever-changing, seemed to whisper of their journey. They had faced doubt, scrutiny, and the weight of their own fears, but they had built something enduring. Suk, once a monk seeking solitude, had found his truth in connection. His family, unconventional and unbreakable, was his temple now. The Mekong River shimmered under a crescent moon, its waters reflecting the lanterns strung across the village square. Suk stood at the edge of the gathering, his children weaving through the crowd, their laughter mingling with the hum of a traditional Lao band. The village was celebrating its annual Baon Ok Phansa, marking the end of Buddhist Lent, and the air buzzed with the scent of grilled fish and the soft clink of bamboo rafts floating candles downstream. Clara, Emma, Lily, and Rose moved among the villagers, their presence as natural as the river itself. 5 years had passed since Suk left the monastery, and their family, once an anomaly, had become the heartbeat of the community. The children, now 4 years old, were a whirlwind of energy. Cam, with Suk's thoughtful eyes, led his siblings in a game of tag, dodging between stalls selling sticky rice and woven baskets. Lila, ever observant, clung to Emma's side, mimicking her mother's gentle touch as she handed out herbal remedies. Lily's daughter, sat cross-legged, scribbling in a notebook, her imagination already outpacing her words. Oliver, Rose's son, darted to the food stalls, sneaking bits of grilled banana under his mother's watchful eye. Suk watched them with a quiet pride, his heart swelling at the life he'd built with his 4 partners. The success of Family of the Mekong had brought both blessings and burdens. The foundation, Mekong Harmony, had grown, funding schools and clinics across northern Laos. Clara's photographs, now exhibited in Paris and Tokyo, drew philanthropists who saw the village as a model of sustainable change. Emma's dispensary had become a training hub, with nurses from Vientiane learning her methods. Lily's poetry workshops inspired a literary festival, drawing writers from across Southeast Asia. Rose's cooking school had expanded into a cultural center, where Lao and Western chefs collaborated on fusion dishes that celebrated both heritage and innovation. Yet the spotlight cast shadows. The family's unconventional bond remained a lightning rod for debate. Online forums buzzed with opinions, some praising their courage, others accusing them of cultural appropriation or moral decay. A conservative Lao politician had publicly criticized their union, calling it a Western corruption of Buddhist values. Suk, trained in detachment, struggled to shield his family from the noise. He meditated daily by the river, seeking clarity, but the weight of judgment tested his resolve. Clara, ever the pragmatist, turned scrutiny into opportunity. She proposed a second book, Harmony and Diversity, blending her photography with Lily's essays and contributions from children. The project aimed to showcase the village's transformation and their family's role in it, framing their love as a universal story. Lily, initially hesitant, saw it as a chance to reclaim their narrative. They worked late into the night, the house filled with the click of Clara's laptop and the scratch of Lily's pen. The children, sensing the project's importance, drew pictures to include their crayon sketches of rivers and temples, a testament to their dual heritage. Emma faced her own challenges. The clinic's success had drawn government attention, and officials demanded formal licensing. The process was a bureaucratic maze, requiring trips to Vientiane and negotiations with skeptical officials. Emma, with Suk's support, navigated the system, her determination fueled by the faces of the patients she served. One evening, as they sorted paperwork under a flickering bulb, Suk took her hand. "You're building more than a clinic," he said. "You're building trust." Emma smiled, her exhaustion softened by his words. Their bond, rooted in shared purpose, grew stronger through each challenge. Rose, the family's anchor, felt the strain of their public life. Her cooking school thrived, but she longed for quiet moments with her family. She organized weekly dinners, where the 5 adults and 4 children gathered around a low table, sharing stories over steaming bowls of cow soy. These evenings grounded them, a reminder of why they'd chosen this path. Rose also began teaching the children to cook, guiding their small hands to knead dough or chop lemongrass. Oliver, her son, took to it with glee, declaring he'd open a restaurant one day. Rose laughed, kissing his forehead, but her heart ached at the thought of him facing a world that might not understand their family. The village, too, evolved. The elders, once divided, now saw the family as a bridge to progress. Fumi, the stern elder who had once challenged Suk, became an unlikely ally. He joined the Mekong Harmony Board, advocating for projects that preserve Lao traditions while embracing change. The village school, rebuilt with foundation funds, now taught English alongside Lao, preparing children for a globalized world. Baomi and Saida, Emma's nurses, opened a women's health program, addressing taboo topics like maternal care. The village square, once a dusty patch, was now a vibrant hub, with a library stocked with Lily's books and a gallery of Clara's photographs. A new challenge emerged as the children approached school age. The village school was excellent, but the women worried about exposing the children to broader perspectives. Clara suggested a hybrid approach, local schooling supplemented by online courses and trips to England. The idea sparked debate. Lily feared the children might feel rootless, torn between two worlds. Emma worried about logistics, while Rose wanted to ensure they stayed connected to Lao culture. Suk listened, mediating with his quiet wisdom. "They'll carry both worlds in their hearts," he said. "We'll teach them to find balance." After weeks of discussion, they agreed on a plan. The children would attend the village school, with summer visits to England to meet their grandparents and explore their mother's heritage. The plan came to life the following summer, when Clara's mother, Margaret, arrived with Emma's father, David. The visit was a milestone, bridging the family's two worlds. Margaret, once skeptical, wept as she held her grandchildren, their chatter a mix of Lao and English. David, a retired doctor, spent hours with Emma in the clinic, marveling at her work. The children, shy at first, warmed to their grandparents, showing them the river and teaching them Lao words. The visit culminated in a ceremony by the Mekong, where the family and villagers released lanterns into the sky, their glow symbolizing unity. As the children grew, so did the family's legacionnaires from across Southeast Asia, drawn by their story. The festival, now an annual event, celebrated cultural fusion, with Lao music, English folk songs, and dishes that blended both cuisines. Clara's photographs from the event were published in National Geographic, cementing the village's place on a global stage. Lily's children's book, The Naga's Promise, was translated into 10 languages, its proceeds funding scholarships. Emma's clinic became a model for rural healthcare, earning her an award from a Thai NGO. Rose's Cultural Center hosted chefs from Michelin-starred restaurants, who learned to make tam makong while sharing their own techniques. The family's bond, tested by time and scrutiny, grew unbreakable. Suk and the women navigated their complex love with honesty, addressing jealousy or doubt through open talks under the banyan tree. The children, raised in this web of affection, saw love as boundless, their mothers and father a constellation of care. Suk, reflecting on his monastic past, found no conflict between his vows and his life. The Buddha taught compassion. He lived it through his family and community. One evening, as the family sat by the river, a letter arrived from a Lao filmmaker. She wanted to adapt their story into a feature film, focusing on their journey as a universal tale of love and resilience. The proposal sparked a mix of excitement and caution. Clara worried about privacy, Emma about accuracy, Lily about artistic control, and Rose about the children's exposure. Suk, as always, listened and spoke. "Our story isn't just ours," he said. "It belongs to everyone who dares to love differently. Let's share it, but on our terms." They agreed to collaborate, with Clara and Lily as consultants, ensuring the film honored their truth. The film, River of Hearts, premiered 2 years later at the Cannes Film Festival. It was a quiet masterpiece, blending Lao mysticism with modern storytelling. The audience wept as it depicted Suk's transformation from monk to father, the women's courage, and the village's evolution. The children, now 6, attended the premiere in Vientiane, their eyes wide at seeing their lives on screen. The film's success amplified Mekong Harmony's reach, with donations pouring in from around the world. The family used the funds to build a vocational school, training young Lao in photography, nursing, writing, and culinary arts. As the years passed, the family's influence rippled outward. Cam, at 10, showed a knack for photography, shadowing Clara with a toy camera. Lila trained with Emma, bandaging dolls with precision. Ma published her first poem in a local magazine, mentored by Lily. Oliver opened a restaurant in the garden, serving mud pies with a chef's flair. The village, once a speck on the map, was now a destination for those seeking inspiration. Travelers left with more than souvenirs. They carried stories of a family that redefined love. One twilight, as the family gathered for their nightly dinner, Suk looked at his partners and children, the river a silver thread behind them. He thought of his monastic days, the silence of the temple, and the questions that had led him here. He had sought truth in solitude. He found it in connection. Their story, born in a quiet village, had touched hearts worldwide, a testament to love's power to transcend borders and dogmas. The future stretched before them, open and uncertain. The children would face questions, perhaps judgment, but they would also carry the strength of their family's love. Suk, Clara, Emma, Lily, and Rose had built a legacy not of fame, but of compassion, resilience, and the courage to forge their own path. As the stars emerged above the Mekong, Suk took Clara's hand, then Emma's, Lily's, and Rose's, the children linking them in a circle. The river sang, and their laughter rose, a melody of hope and connection that would echo for generations.